Every crime has a beginning. At the trigger point, we take you back to where it all started. Can you believe it? A person dismembered into 2,368 pieces, cooked until tender, and flushed down the drain. Yes, this gruesome act was committed by a nurse named Li Fengping. This is not a horror film. This is a true story from March 22, 2020, in Guangxi, China. That night, an elderly man known as Grandpa Sun noticed his toilet wasn't flushing properly. He called in a plumber to fix the clog, but what came out wasn't just a blockage, it was tiny chunks of cooked meat. At first, everyone thought it might have been leftover pork someone dumped from upstairs. But the moment Grandpa Sun got a closer look, his face turned pale. With years of life experience, he immediately recognized this was human tissue. Without hesitation, he picked up the phone and called the police. At that exact time, the local police station in Yulin City received another report, this one from a middle-aged woman. She said her husband, Luo Yuanjian, a 51-year-old doctor at Yulin First Hospital, had gone missing several days earlier. His phone was off. She'd even gone to the hospital looking for him, but his co-workers said he hadn't shown up in 2 days. The police arrived quickly, and forensic investigators confirmed the worst. The meat chunks were indeed human tissue, and worse, still they had been cooked. Based on the degree of decomposition, they could tell that the dismemberment had happened recently. The investigation led police to a local apartment complex where a BMW car registered to the missing doctor, Luo Yuanjian, was found. In the same building, they discovered the chilling connection. The fragments were traced back to an apartment on the 3rd floor. The suspect, a 25-year-old nurse named Li Fengping. At the time, Li was still working at the hospital, and when the police approached her, she didn't seem nervous at all. Her calmness only raised more questions. During the interrogation, Li quickly confessed to both murdering and dismembering Dr. Luo. Inside her rented apartment, the police found Luo's car keys and phone, along with cooked pieces of his body in a pressure cooker. They also found human bones under her bed. The investigation took an even darker turn when police searched Li Fengping's rented apartment. They found her gruesome handiwork, pieces of Dr. Luo's body, chopped up and cooked in a pressure cooker, hidden away in her kitchen. Under the bed, they discovered human bones, the remnants of what used to be a man. And the horrors didn't stop there. In the toilet drain and the sewage tank, police found more body parts, fragments of Dr. Luo's remains. In total, there were 2,368 pieces. Yes, you heard that right, 2,368 pieces. This wasn't just a crime of murder. This was an act of complete dismemberment, meticulously executed with the intent to destroy all evidence. Li Fengping's story didn't start in a city, but in a poor, remote mountain village in Guangxi Province, China. Born on September 16, 1995, Li was the eldest daughter in a family of 5. They lived in a cramped 60-square-meter apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Li was an exceptional student. She excelled in her studies, winning multiple awards along the way. But due to her family's financial situation, she couldn't afford to continue high school after graduation. Instead, she enrolled in a nursing program, a 3-year course, followed by a 2-year associate degree. By 2007, she graduated, and her resume was so impressive that 3 hospitals offered her a job. Li chose to work at Yulin First Hospital, the closest to her hometown. Li Fengping's life in the city started off promising. She was diligent and her salary began at around 3,000 yuan per month. But as time passed, she found herself wanting more. More clothes, more makeup, more status. Her modest income couldn't keep up with her growing desires, so she turned to online loans to finance her lifestyle. Soon, she was drowning in debt. To make matters worse, she became addicted to online gambling in 2019. What started as small bets of 10 or 20 yuan quickly escalated. Before long, she was wagering tens of thousands of yuan and losing it all. Desperate to cover her growing debts, Li borrowed even more money from friends and co-workers, but it was never enough. In just a few months, her debts reached an astonishing over 1 million yuan. By the summer of 2019, Li Fengping had hit rock bottom. She needed money, and fast. That's when she turned to Dr. Luo Yuanjun, a 51-year-old doctor she had met at the hospital. Knowing he was well off and owned a BMW, Li sent him a message asking for a loan of 200,000 yuan. Surprisingly, he agreed, but with one condition: she would need to engage in a sexual relationship with him in exchange. Though Li was disgusted by the idea, her desperation won out. She agreed, and their transaction began. Dr. Luo transferred 50,000 yuan to her upfront, and over time, Li reluctantly went along with his demands. They ended up having 13 encounters, each time with her receiving more money. In total, she obtained 200,000 yuan from him. But this wasn't just a simple loan. Dr. Luo made it clear. She owed him. In addition to the money, he demanded 3 sexual encounters per week and forbade her from having any relationships with other men. He even pressured her to have children with him. By January 2020, the pressure had become unbearable. Li Fengping could no longer cope with the mental and emotional toll of her situation. She had tried to end it all. She swallowed 80 sleeping pills, hoping for a quick escape, but it didn't work. She tried again, this time turning on the gas, but once again she woke up. Desperate, she injected 2 vials of insulin from her workplace, but once more she survived. Each attempt left her more broken, more defeated than before. In March 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. Luo was unable to meet Li Fengping at the hotel as they had done before. Frustrated and desperate, he rented an apartment near the hospital to continue their relationship, but the emotional toll on Li had become too much to bear. One evening, after Dr. Luo had been drinking, he arrived at the apartment, eager to continue their sexual encounters, but Li, sick of his demands, was in no condition to comply. She pushed him away, but he refused to back off. Instead, he threatened to ruin her life if she didn't comply. "I'll make sure you lose your job and your reputation." That night, Li Fengping's breaking point arrived. She had reached the end of her rope. That night, with Dr. Luo passed out from alcohol, Li Fengping finally made her decision. Her breaking point had come. She went into the kitchen, grabbed a computer power cord, and strangled him as he slept. Once he was dead, she didn't hesitate. Li immediately set to work on his body, dismembering him with the precision of someone who had carefully planned the gruesome act. But her plan didn't stop there. She chopped the body into smaller pieces, hoping that it would be easier to dispose of. Then she boiled the flesh, thinking it might reduce its volume, making it less noticeable. Afterwards, she flushed the pieces down the toilet, hiding the evidence of her horrific crime. After dismembering Dr. Luo's body, Li Fengping was far from finished. She knew she needed to cover her tracks completely, so she took Dr. Luo's smartphone and used his fingerprint to unlock it. Without hesitation, she transferred 98,000 yuan from his bank account to her own, but that wasn't enough. She also attempted to take out loans under Dr. Luo's name, but when the verification failed, she was forced to abandon the idea. Li then turned her attention to his BMW, his prized car. She searched for the necessary documents to transfer ownership, but was unable to find them. In her panic, she returned to the crime scene in an attempt to get rid of any remaining evidence of the murder. With the evidence seemingly wiped away, Li Fengping carried on with her life as if nothing had happened. She returned to work at the hospital, hiding the monstrous crime she had committed. Her colleagues had no idea, and life appeared to return to normal. But beneath the surface, her guilt was non-existent. She felt no remorse, only a cold indifference to the life she had taken. But the truth could not stay hidden forever. One night, as she flushed the last remnants of Dr. Luo's body down the toilet, her crime was about to unravel. It was then that the pieces started falling into place. A discovery by a neighbor would eventually lead the authorities to her door. In March 2020, a routine visit to the bathroom by a resident, Grandpa's son, would change everything. As he attempted to clear a clogged toilet, he found what he first thought were scraps of red braised pork, but upon closer inspection he realized that they were human remains, fragments of flesh, bones, evidence of a horrific crime. Without hesitation, Grandpa's son called the police. The authorities soon arrived, and forensic experts confirmed the remains belonged to Dr. Luo. Investigators turned their focus to the apartment complex, and through the discovery of further evidence, they quickly zeroed in on Li Fengping as the primary suspect. The police eventually tracked down Li Fengping, and when they searched her apartment, they found crucial evidence. Among the items recovered were Dr. Luo's car keys and his smartphone, as well as uncooked pieces of his dismembered body. She was arrested on the spot. In the face of overwhelming evidence, Li Fengping confessed to the crime. She admitted to murdering Dr. Luo and dismembering his body in an attempt to cover up her actions. The brutality of her confession shocked even the experienced detectives involved in the case. During the trial, one of the most contentious points was whether Dr. Luo had forced himself on Li Fengping. The prosecution argued that the two had been engaged in an improper relationship that eventually led to the murder, while the defense claimed that Li had been sexually coerced by Dr. Luo. However, despite the dispute, the court ultimately convicted Li Fengping of intentional murder and theft, citing the brutality of her actions and the cold-hearted way in which she had planned and executed the crime. She was sentenced to death for her crimes, with the court also imposing a monetary fine in accordance with the law. Li Fengping's case sparked widespread public outcry as people struggled to comprehend the depth of her cruelty. Many were shocked by the extent of her murderous violence and the cold, calculated way in which she had dismantled Dr. Luo's life. But beneath the shocking details of the crime, this case also illuminated deeper societal issues of financial desperation, sexual coercion, and mental health. Her actions raised troubling questions about how far someone might go when pushed to the brink, and how the lack of support systems in her life may have contributed to the tragedy. The case of Li Fengping was not just an ordinary murder, it was a tragic reflection of deeper societal flaws. Her actions exposed multiple systemic issues, including the failures in mental health support, the prevalence of financial inequality, and the deep-rooted gender dynamics that influenced her choices. While the crime itself was horrific, the aftermath prompted society to confront uncomfortable questions about the support structures that failed her and many others like her. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Could a more supportive environment have stopped her from descending into such darkness? If this case made you think twice, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll be back next week with another case, only on The Trigger Point.